Good evening here on the Central Riverhawks YouTube channel. I'm Joel McCall, visiting now with Mitch Olson. He is the head coach for the Central Riverhawks football team as they come off of a W last week, 23-7 over at Tomah at homecoming. They're 5-1, 3-1 in the conference, and Mitch Olson joins us. Thanks, Coach, for joining me.
Happy to be talking to you, Joel.
17-0 was the halftime score, and I got the drive charts in front of me. And of course, it was a great start to the game, forcing a turnover right away off the kickoff, and then recovered by Tomah. And 2 plays later, Tomah hits a 24-yard touchdown pass from Alvarado. So 7-0 start, and exactly what you wanted because you got a turnover too.
Yeah, it was a great start. And I got to talk a little bit about Isaiah Walker. He is one kid that we have asked to do so many different things on both sides of the ball. He's playing for us on offense, defense, special teams. He's just so versatile, and the kid's a hard worker, and he's just always making plays. So it wasn't too surprising, I guess, that it was him that forced the fumble. And then Aaron Tomah recovers it. It's fun to watch him fly down on kickoff too. I mean, those are 2 guys that do a lot of things that sometimes go unnoticed for our team.
I completely agree with you with Walker. Tomah, of course, had a nice showing several games this season, so it's easier to highlight him.
It's the plays that he's making on special teams, though. He's such a good receiver, but just how he attacks and really embraces playing special teams, as he's one of our most talented players. The fact that he's going out there on special teams and making those plays, it's just awesome.
Yeah. And then, as you said, with Walker, he's been on the defensive line, the offensive line, playing special teams. He's doing it all, and forced Tomah into a punt. Then Wilds came up with an interception on the drive for Central that went 12 plays. Alvarado at the 30-yard field goal after Tomah was a 3-and-out, forced Tomah to punt again. In fact, that's all Tomah did throughout the entire first half. And then it ended with the 28-yard touchdown pass from Alvarado to Meyer. And then, we got to talk about the big play after that. We will with Tomah. But what a nice touchdown throw by Alvarado to Meyer there right before half.
Yeah, that was a great ball. Not an easy throw to make, but he got it in a good spot, and Henry kind of did what he does. He just makes plays.
And really, I thought maybe the momentum might swing. We had no idea what Steffel could do as far as his arm strength. It's not like Nami and I watch film on it like you do. So we're just kind of speculating up at the press box of, boy, this has to be one heck of a throw. It was a heck of a throw. I mean, he hit this guy in stride, 54 yards. The trouble for Tomah is they needed 55. That was a momentum-saving tackle there right before halftime.
Yeah, I think situationally we just need to be a little bit better. And that kid can fly. We've just got to better understand the situation that we're in. But what a play by Carson Jones. Such a smart, savvy player, and you always know that effort is going to be there with him. He went and saved a touchdown. That was a huge play.
It really was. Led you into halftime then 17-0 because there was no time left on the clock once Tomah landed on the 1 with Boyko. And then the first drive of the second half, not one you probably want to watch on film. As I know they had the negative 17-yard play plus a penalty, and then Shepard fumbled, which Tomah took advantage of. Give them credit too, because they bounced right back and made it a ball game right there at 17-7.
Yeah, yep. We've just got to come out a little bit better and kind of clean up how we're starting the second half a little bit.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. We've talked about the fourth quarter. I think things went well for the Riverhawks in the fourth quarter. I really liked the big run by Shepard. I felt so bad right away because I said Rude. And then I realized that's not Rude. That's Shepard that was running those 49 yards for the touchdown for the final touchdown and final score of the game. Man, he is such a workhorse for you guys, for your running back in that backfield. And it's nice to see Shepard getting his dues in the end zone too.
Absolutely. I think he finished with 167 yards. And it was good. You know, he's such a strong physical runner that runs through people so well. And, you know, I think that fits what we're looking to do on offense, but it was great. And I was happy for Gavin that, you know, he got to show his speed off a little bit in the open field because he can run.
Yeah, he sure did. That's what surprised me so much. That's why I almost thought it was Rudyard, because of the speed that happened after Shepard hit the second level.
Yeah, he's got wheels, Joel.
Apparently, I want to see him more often out in that out in the open, and then the interception by Stripmonder, of course, too, and the interception by Leo throughout the game too. So your defense comes up with some big plays in the second half and gets more turnovers, which is again is what you're going to hit on in about 5 minutes when I ask you for keys against Holmen. So we're not even going to go through that. 23-7 was the final score. I think the biggest question, obviously, coming out of the entire win is what is the status of Meyer? We know that he didn't play in the second half. I saw him down below. He had his ankle all iced up and on crutches. What's the story on Henry? Because he's had such a magnificent season. I'd hate to see it end now.
Yeah, he's got an ankle sprain. You know, I think if it was up to Henry, he would probably tell you that he is going to play on Friday. But it's not up to Henry. And we are going to do what is in the best interest of him. So if he's ready to go, you know, we'll have him. I know that he is going to think that he's ready to go. But we are not going to put anyone, and that includes Henry, in a position where, you know, they could end up worse off from playing through an injury. So, you know, he's that competitor that wants to be out there, even if he's not at 100%. But we're going to pull the reins back on him, and, you know, hopefully he's back and, you know, we don't have to worry about it. But, you know, if we have to go out there and play with him, we'll do that. And we still feel good about the other guys that we have. So we'll just have to wait and see kind of how this week goes. And, you know, we're not going to do anything that jeopardizes, you know, his health for the rest of this football season, then also for basketball season. You know, it's not fair as adults to put a kid in a situation where he can jeopardize anything else in the near or distant future. So we are going to get him back to 100% before we allow him to come back and play.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that. And as a person that broke his ankle at one point in my lifetime, I know how hard it is to come back. And I'm glad to hear it's just a sprain. Obviously, a high ankle sprain, though, is the one that everybody talks about, especially commentators like myself and Nami. So I'm glad. Hopefully he'll be okay. Let's move on to Holmen. What an exciting game they had again last week. Coming all the way back, they were down. I think it was like 24-7 and came all the way back to beat Sparta 27-24. I have it up here if I can find my notes through that game, though. So a great win for them to come from behind to beat Sparta 27-24. They don't have much posted on Wisports except for their running totals, which was 236 yards and a couple of touchdowns. So their ground game certainly helped them out to get back into that game against Sparta.
Yeah. And it was a big boost for them. They played a sophomore there in the second half, number 7, and he hadn't been playing much throughout the year. But, you know, once you saw him getting some carries, that kind of changed the momentum for them a little bit. And they've been in a lot of close games,
Yes.
you know, all throughout the year. That's the style of football they play, you know, running the option.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, because again, they were the one that had the four overtime game against Tomah just the week prior and got away there with a W, snuck out of there with a 35-32. As you said, they've Chippewa Falls at the very beginning of the year, they lost 17-14. So again, we talk about how Tomah's record was deceiving. Holmen's kind of the same thing as they head into Friday night. You just mentioned the option, and that's what they run. Again, we're talking with Mitch Olson, the Riverhawks football head coach. You know, obviously deception is key when it comes to the option. I don't know if they run a triple option, so you look for that fullback once in a while too, and then the pitch on the outside. You guys run some option. Obviously, it's not every down, but so you've seen it, you know about it. You've seen Holmen for years, so you could probably dissect their offense a little bit better than I can.
I wouldn't sell yourself short, Joel, but I do feel as though I have a decent grasp of it.
Well, tell me about it then.
All right. Well, they're first off, it all starts with their quarterback, Zach Ertz. He's a big kid, 6'4", 6'5", 215. He's a smart kid. He looks like he's making really clean reads for him. But you've got to be able to limit what he does a little bit, and then you can't let their fullback get going. So last week, their fullback rushed for a little over 140 yards. A lot of it is coming on a play called the midline, which I'm sure you know all about, right?
Yes.
Got it. Yep. So we need to make sure that we are solid on that, and can limit the effectiveness of what they do at that. And we'll have to give them some different looks and stuff like that. But we need to make sure that they don't just sit there and pound the fullback. So he's a good player. He's got a great feel for, I wouldn't even necessarily say finding the hole, but he just moves really well and has a good feel for what the offensive linemen in front of him are doing. And, he can kind of ride the wave a little bit of the offensive line, and then he'll dart out and pick up some more yards. So we'll need to take care of him. The big thing with taking care of the quarterback is going to make sure that, we make him pitch the ball. So we've got to play disciplined football. We've got to play assignment sound football. That's always the most important thing when you're playing option teams. But, I think if we can just be real solid with that and check off on our responsibilities every play, we'll be okay there. But then that sophomore that they brought in, brings something a little bit different than what it seems they've had earlier, because he didn't play until the second half. And, that's really when they got rolling, is when he knocked out some big runs. He's a fast kid. He's a really good athlete. He's got a good feel for bouncing it outside and then sticking his foot in the ground and cutting it back. So he's good. We can't give up any big plays to him. And then, they're going to throw the ball, maybe 3 times a game. I don't know. It's going to be there at some point. So when they do throw the ball, we've got to make sure that we're disciplined in that back end. And, we don't have a mental lapse and let one of those wing backs wheel off on a route, or let those tight ends shoot straight up the field.
Yeah, don't get suckered in, as you said. And then on their defensive side, what do you see out of that?
Yeah, they've changed it up a little bit this year from what they've run in years past. My guess is they really like their nose tackle. He's a big kid, as far as just pure size and mass. That's trying to think if we've seen any just bigger kids in stature than him. I don't know if we have. He's a load. I think they have some good athletes at safety in their defensive backfield. Their linebackers seem to be smart, disciplined kids too. Overall, it looks like a pretty good defensive unit for them.
Well, you know where I'm going. You already kind of hit on it for the defensive side. Certainly playing your gap, don't get caught cheating up front, and obviously limit their fullback. So tell me other keys. I know turnovers is coming.
Yeah, it is. And, if you asked Holmen, they would say the same thing. When Holmen is really good, they're not turning the ball over. But, I remember being a little kid and watching Rice Lake. Okay. Rice Lake is a town up in northern Wisconsin, and they were in Chippewa's conference when I was growing up. And I remember, the battles between Chippewa and Rice Lake, and they would run the triple option. And I remember a coach when I was a little kid saying, well, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And if you want to play option football, you're going to put the ball on the ground every now and then. So we have got to capitalize on that. When Holmen is playing their best football, they are taking care of the ball. But that's also really hard to do when you play option football. That's 3 different exchanges that could happen in one play. So those are 3 different opportunities where something can go awry and the ball could end up on the ground. So that could be one of our defenders hitting the ball when the quarterback's on the mesh. It could be forcing a tough pitch. Or, it could just be standing up a ball carrier, getting another guy to the ball and ripping it out.
Right.
So anytime you play Holmen, if you can limit the big plays, make them drive the ball down the field, you'd like to say that the odds are maybe somewhat in your favor, and you're going to be able to get some turnovers out of them.
Yep, I didn't grow up in Wisconsin. You already know that, but I did grow up watching Osborne over at Nebraska. I had to see the
Yep.
Cornhuskers constantly, and that's all they ran was that triple option, and they ran it to perfection a lot of years and had their chance at even a national championship. So I had to see it a lot and had to hear about it a lot too, unfortunately, when I'm not a Nebraska fan. But I'm really looking forward to this one. It should be a great game. Might be a little sloppy too, Coach. I mean, there's talk about rain throughout the entire week.
Yeah, we'll see. There have been some years at Holmen where it's like, their grass field was just immaculate. And then there have been some other years where it has gotten a little long and sloppy. So we'll see how it holds up. I'm sure that they have a great grounds crew up there that's just going to have that thing pristine and ready to go.
Yeah, I sure hope so. And I know that I already got the confirmation that we'll be there. So I'm looking forward to the ball game. So we'll get to cover it right here on the Central Riverhawks YouTube channel. Coach Olson, thank you so much for joining me. Do appreciate your time. Glad we didn't get struck by lightning during this entire Zoom call.
Yeah, it's looking a little nasty out there. So we got some white caps rolling on the Mississippi River here. I'm looking out my garage window. So
Well, I got the lightning right outside my office window, so I think I'm going to go and have my supper. And Coach Olson, thank you so much. We're going to have more tonight as long as the weather holds up and we get internet at my house at least, because we have Coach Lyons to join us at least. And I know Coach Mick for ASL, she's also having some issues. She hasn't had internet at her house all day, so hopefully it'll be back up and running, and we'll have her on at around 7:45 or so. And then I have a lot to plug, Coach. Just get comfortable, anyway. No, I'm just kidding. But we do have boys soccer for you on Tuesday night. That's over at Sparta. That's a 6:15 is the kickoff for that. So Nami and I are planning on covering that. Nami's going to have to be by himself though, covering boys soccer versus the ASL soccer match on Wednesday. That's at 4:00. I don't have anyone to cover the kids. So unfortunately I'll be missing that one, but I'll be watching Nami. We have Thursday night. We have volleyball for you coming up, and then football Friday night versus Holmen. Thanks again to Coach Olson, and thank you for tuning in here on the Central Riverhawks YouTube channel.